Eric Cantor's the fifth term congressman. Man, that's getting it done, huh?
Yep.
Well, it's only for 2 years. So
Yep.
Always running, though. 7th District there in Virginia. Here he is now on the Imus In The Morning program. Good morning, Congressman Cantor.
Imus, good morning.
How are
good
you?
To be with you. Good.
Any more death threats?
I hope not. Kind of not a nice part of the business we're in, but just enjoying the springtime weather. How about you?
I'm fine. Well, I'm not having a great day today, but we don't need to get into that, so because it's irrelevant considering what's going on in the world. And 25 miners lost their lives there in West Virginia. So.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a tragedy, especially for the families involved. We just have our thoughts and prayers with the people in that town of Mount Cole and the families who are there. Not only those who've lost their loved ones, but those waiting to see if their loved ones survived.
What do you make of digressing here? Talk about Afghanistan for a minute. Of Hamid Karzai and his line of rhetoric now coming out of there.
Well, I mean, listen. I think it shows that maybe elected leaders in the U.S. aren't the only ones apt to say things that maybe aren't appropriate. And clearly, I think that Karzai's comments were offensive, and I know that he has made overtures to the Secretary of State to try and address our concerns. By his indicating that somehow election fraud was due to, anything having to do with our efforts in Afghanistan. But I do think that, we need to step back a little bit and say, look, it is America who has provided so much support there for the Afghan people. And look, we're in a larger global war against terror, and it is the Taliban and Al-Qaeda that we need to continue to stay focused on. Our success in Afghanistan is imperative. We've got to make sure that not only does that country never again serve as a base for terrorist operations or attacks to be launched against us or our interests, but on the other hand, we also need to be very concerned about making sure that we never see a destabilized nuclear Pakistan. And that as well, and that effort as well, is very much tied to our success in Afghanistan.
It's a worthy goal, what you just stated, for Afghanistan, but I just don't see any common sense, realistic way that ever happens.
Well, we've got a serious, as you indicate, spring weather or not. This world of ours is in a very precarious state. Not only do we have domestic issues here that we're facing unprecedented challenges on the domestic front with our budget and the spending and the added weight of this health care bill, but internationally, let us not forget there continue to be forces out there, terrorist organizations that operate with state sponsors that can provide a very lethal threat to what we know as America.
Oh, I hear you, and I hear, and I'm sympathetic to your view, but I mean, I don't see how we ever get a foothold in Afghanistan if now the first thing we're facing, unless he was just blowing off steam, because the first thing we're facing is essentially a government that's threatening to join the enemy, and he's looking at we're looking at 5 more years of this guy.
Well, there's no question that it is appropriate for the White House to insist that Karzai and his government clean up their act, that the corruption that has been reported be stopped. I mean, listen, I don't stop for a moment from saying that we in this country should insist on transparency, and the only way for that to really occur is it needs to start with the top. And that message has been sent, and I would continue to support this president in his sending the message to the Karzai government in Afghanistan. But again, I think it's important for us to focus on a larger challenge, and that is the 9/11 attacks, emanated from breeding grounds, if you will, of terrorist organizations and Al-Qaeda within the confines of Afghanistan. And we know very well that the forces there behind that almost 9 years ago still exist. And we've got to make sure that we are committed in the larger picture to securing, our freedom in this country.
Well, how do we, I understand that, but how do we fight the Taliban and essentially the government there that we pretty much installed? I mean, I mean, the goal is worthy. I agree with you. We want to root out these people and don't give them a place to, have a camp and figure out a way to attack us again. But I don't see how that happens there with everybody, with everybody's the enemy, everybody.
Well, I mean, there's no question. I think that ultimately it is the people of Afghanistan that have seen what this country of ours has done for them. I mean, if you go there and you see the state of that country after we have come in there versus what it was before, but clearly that country is not going to be a democracy the way that we know it. And I think that we need to allow that reality to affect what it is our long-term goals are. And again, must be very focused on U.S. security, and U.S. security is very much tied to a government in that country. I'm not disagreeing with you, Imus, but we need to be very strong in the message we send to Karzai after his making comments like that, no question.
17 till the hour here in the Imus Morning program. We're talking with Congressman Eric Cantor of 7th District, Virginia. President got his health care bill passed, and the world did not end.
Well, listen, we know that this health care bill, Imus, is a $1 trillion bill. It spends money we don't have. And unfortunately, what we're going to see kick in over the next year is an extraordinary income tax hike. We've got all kinds of taxes increasing at the end of this year. Benefits under this health care bill that will accrue to some will kick in another couple years. And I think what we need to do is look in the larger picture of this, Imus. This health care bill is one that the country did not want. People are trying to figure out right now what it means for them. But I can tell you what it means for this country is a hastened path to bankruptcy if we're not able to repeal this and replace it with the kind of health care bill that Americans want and, frankly, need.
Of course, I keep thinking who knows how many trillions of dollars in debt. So, being on the precipice of bankruptcy seems like we're way past that in this country. And I ask myself, which is why I'm not an elected official, what the hell difference does it make? We get a few more million people insured. I mean, it's an idiotic point of view, I guess, but that's where I'm coming from.
Well, certainly it makes a difference. I mean, we cannot, just as no family in this country or business in this country can operate off of money they don't have infinitely. We've got to begin to really get, a grip and get real in Washington. Stop the spending and expanding Washington and start looking at how we grow the economy for everybody else. This health care bill is very much Washington-centric. It'll be about Washington-dictated health care policy in this country from here on out, with very little prospects for ever reducing costs. Look at it. Neither party has ever gone to Washington and reduced government costs or the size of government. So anytime you put your stock into government, which is what this plan does, you're going to fail. And you're going to fail in terms of comparing to what the private sector can do. And that's why we've got to educate the folks, and all of us have got to understand what it means for families. And what this means for families and businesses is, number one, it's going to be a reduction in your take-home pay. Because if you're wealthy enough, you're going to pay higher taxes because of this health care bill. If you're not, and you're still not getting the subsidies, you're going to pay higher premiums because it's a more expensive health care plan that Washington tells you got to have. And other than that, you're going to be on the subsidy route, which which again causes the need for more spending and just increases the debt load on our kids. This is a terrible, terrible path for us to head down.
Here's what's going to happen before we curtail spending in Washington. The Taliban in Afghanistan is going to announce, they're going to say, damn it, you guys are right. We're out of here. We're going to stop acting stupid and trying to kill everybody in America and just go home and farm. So, I hate to be so negative, but they're not going to stop all this crazy, insane spending in Washington because you have to just follow the money. You guys have to run every 2 years, and the other guys every 6 years. Karzai is going to join the Taliban. I mean, it's just the world is there's no point. There's just no point in anything, Congressman.
I don't know what was in your orange juice this morning, but I don't share your pessimism. I certainly share your concern. I share a concern that the direction in which we're headed in this country is extremely troubling, and frankly, our kids are not going to know the America we do unless we make some serious commitments to changing course here and stop the spending, stop growing Washington, and begin to focus on growing the economy for everybody else.
You know what I was actually happy about the other day?
What's that?
I was happy to see the president happy. God bless him. I was happy to see, he was going around. He had been moping around for months. Everybody bad-mouthing him, and he said even the people who voted for him, they say they didn't like him. He didn't keep any of his promises and all that stuff. He finally got something done. He got his mojo back. He had a little spring in his step. He's playing basketball with Clark Kellogg. I said, everything may not be right with the world, but at least he's not all down in the mouth, and he feels good. So,
well, listen, I'm glad you find joy in that. And listen, nobody wishes the president harm and ill will. It's just the policies that are a big concern to me and most Americans. I mean, most Americans don't like the path that we're heading down. Trillions of dollars in spending. Well, listen, that's why I would temper your glee on this a little bit with the spring in the president's step, because the glee, I think, comes from his being satisfied that he has now put in place one of the largest entitlement programs ever in the history of this country. Again, not the direction we want to head to become Europe. And not one that is very responsible, not one that the American public needs or wants.
Now you've got me bummed out again. Thanks. All right, Congressman Eric Cantor here on the Imus In The Morning program. Thanks.